Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Eric again, representing Hypnosis today. It's going to be episode 4. And in essence, I just, this quick intro, I just want to make sure that you guys are capable of reaching out to me. You can reach out, either just comment on the bottom, or you can reach out through email at hypnosisradio@gmail.com. That's HIPGNOSIS radio@gmail.com. That's all one word, Hypnosis Radio. Or as I said, just drop a comment on the bottom. And if you can, I would appreciate you put a thumbs up. If you have any input, any ideas of conversations you would like for me to discuss, any specific subjects or areas of discussion you would like for me to communicate or convey, I'd be more than happy to look into that. And, hopefully there'll be a reciprocation between, me and the audience. And so yeah, man, I just so a lot of things going on in my personal life, but I feel compelled today to discuss something that's becoming a little bit more mainstream and heard more in the mainstream that I was already aware of very early on this year. And it's called the Great Reset. Now, for any of you who don't know what that is, I'm going to try to get into details about it, with my own personal studies and my research. Now, mind you, this has been a plan that's been implemented long term. The people behind this plan have been planning this for centuries, not a year ago or 2 years ago. The technology has finally caught up to their vision, and now it's much more easily disseminated and dispensed on a global level to reach the end game that they have planned. So anyhow, this the Great Reset in essence is the New World Order. That's the simple and quick answer to that. The Great Reset is the emergence and the erection of the New World Order in real time right before our eyes. But we are being distracted on a second-to-second basis with these fear tactics and strategies based on this, pathogenic calamity that's spreading, the virulence of it and how the danger that it is. It's on any object, anything you touch, anybody you're near. And there's just a lot of political persuasion going on that's being pushed upon the populace through very strategic, tactical verbiage. And the jargon that's being used on a daily basis, in essence, I think is what's intensifying the fear on a local and global scale. And I just feel compelled to share that everything I've ever studied over 30 plus years of my existence, I now see manifesting on a daily basis. And it's frightening. It's quite frightening because I know the end result. And what makes it more frightening is that this is something that I've studied for so long that I recognized would be, I knew would eventually manifest. And as much as I knew about it or knew of it and was able to make these connections from historical perspectives, identifying secret societies and different global conglomerates, corporations throughout history that worked together feverishly to create World War I and then World War II. First was the League of Nations. World War II had to happen to then manifest the United Nations. And World War III is not so far from where we stand right now, but we're being misdirected and our attention is being placed onto this pandemic. But the people who have created this pandemic from a perspective of bioengineering a pathogen that, in essence, it's a bioweapon. And though it is frightening and scary out of my own studies and observation, it is not as detrimental to the human population as is being expressed through mainstream media. If you have multiple other health issues, yes, it will impact you 10 times more. But the fear tactics are much more impactful when they force feed you fear. on a 24/7 basis, and the lockdown throughout the planet, and is assisting that process of, well, we're stuck home, we have nothing else to do, and our only source of knowledge on the outside world is manipulated and very forced information. So anything that could be an additional or alternative piece of information to help you create a decision that's much more balanced and in tune or in alignment with who you are or what you actually believe in your world, it's all being called, fake news. So the people behind the scenes who are manipulating and controlling all the information throughout, television, movies, and the internet, and now since everybody is home, we're all being brainwashed on a 24/7 basis, force-fed information that they, capital THEY, they want us to hear and see. Because when you are force-fed or drilled a specific amount of information on a daily basis, eventually that changes your perception. Then your perception begins to, I guess you could say at an unconscious level, manifest in your behaviors. And so as I look around, I see basically people hating people. And that's because some people who are, doing their best to not allow this false information, because there is a dichotomy in that, this false information is being thrown around as truthful. And, the moment you question a, quote unquote professional, medical or scientific, virologist or something, or embryologist or an economist, a strategist, tactician, whatever it is, it seems like immediately your own neighbor attacks you and says, oh, so you're a professional, did you do this or that? And it's just weird because you know what? As much as I have studied in my life a huge array of subjects, and I was able to align them all in different categories, but align them in which they all overall are a collective grouping of information that, although they all seem to be very detached or, disconnected snippets of society and history and corporations and families, lineage, and they actually are all connected. But you would only know that if you do your research specifically over a long period of time. Now, hopefully what I'm trying to bring with this show, that as I told you, I do the radio show. Now I'm trying to become a little bit more, I want to have a broader reach and hopefully reach more eyes, hearts, and minds through YouTube, and share this YouTube channel on all other outlets and mediums and, social media sites. I basically just want to open eyes. Now, am I always right? No. But I do feel that it's important to think outside the box. Now, I would never force feed anybody the information that I have. You can simply swipe off. You can just, you don't have to subscribe. You don't have to give a thumbs up. You can offer your commentary in the bottom, especially if you have your own resources or sources of information that you would like for me to research to, I guess, to have a professional, mature debate, a colloquy of the like, in which we can get certain points across. And maybe if you'd like, if you have your own channel, maybe there'll be a way in which that we can have a conversation for the masses and we can share our alternative views and see how people respond to that. Because at the end of the day, I'm all about freedom of speech. And I think that the media right now is force feeding one side of the coin. And when somebody tries to offer the other side, they say, no, that's fake news. No, we've deleted it because we feel you don't need to, to see that or hear that, which in essence is taking away your own individual right of making your own distinction or your own differentiation of information that's, being ingested. Anyhow, just wanting to circle back, I wanted to give you just a quick outline, circling back to what is the Great Reset. The reset, as I said, technically speaking, is the New World Order. Of course, that term really isn't thrown around as much today. It's more known as globalism, open borders. And seeing that this whole great reset that will be taking place, I believe sometime in the middle of January 2021, which will be something introduced formally to the globe from an organization called the World Economic Forum, and the founder and president and chairman of that organization, his name is Klaus Schummer. Yes, I believe it's Klaus Schummer. And he has a background that if people were to study would know he basically is a fascist. And there is a massive agenda of having a socialist slash communistic slash technocratic neo-feudalistic eventual central government. And the way I see how things are happening, because I'm going to get into FedCoin or the CBDC, which is the central bank digital currency, with this information that I'm observing, since as I've studied over the years, as I mentioned, I had an idea of the implementation of their ultimate goal, but I am seeing the different players in the game, and I have to have a little bit more discernment, because now I'm starting to recognize the key players, and I'm saying, okay, well, since the Federal Reserve has been a part of this for the past 100 years or so, it seems that there's a problem in which they are going to fix. And ultimately, the Federal Reserve is not even federal. They're private bankers, and they all come from secret societies. Yes, the Illuminati. Yes, make connections with Albert Pike, Rothschilds, Rockefeller. Rothschild is not even their true last name. It was Bauer, Bauer. They changed to Rothschild because I believe if it's German, I believe it's a German last name, that they changed Rothschild because their crest is red shield. Rothschild means red shield or red crest. And that was their logo for their banks at the time. So anyhow, and that was like the double phoenix or the double-headed griffin. Anyhow, so it's interesting because for the past few days I've been witnessing more and more of this emergence of Bitcoin and the FedCoin, the CBDC that's eventually going to be implemented and put out. So when you go to the store, you go to Walmart, you go to most stores, cash is no longer really accepted out of the fear of spreading this coronavirus. So it's a very genius plan when you think of it from an evil, malicious, malevolent force that wants to remain hidden and wants to still fulfill its own goal without appearing to be impeding or pervading society in a malicious manner. So what they do is they create a scheme, which is the COVID-19, and though as realistic as it is, and it is real and people have gotten sick, it is not as bad as the media is force-feeding us. But that's part of the plan, because eventually what happens, and what I already see, is that more and more people are willing to completely give up all forms of their freedom. Every freedom they have, they are willing to let go and submit to the governance, the federal government at this point, the CDC, World Health Organization, and the Fed in the background, along with the United Nations hovering there, lingering, waiting for their step to their moment to step in. It seems that people are just so afraid that they're losing any sense of logic, common sense, or rational thinking. And then when somebody like myself introduces a different narrative than what they hear every single day from their force-fed information from the media and from every source, like I said, is being filtered to make sure it's all the same narrative. Somebody like me comes along, offers something else. All of a sudden, I'm going to be marginalized, demonized, hated. I'm going to be, psychological scourge, so to speak, in society. Now, with me saying that, it's troubling and it's frustrating because I was actually building a little bit more hope and faith in humanity, but seeing how humanity is so easily manipulated, it's kind of scary because it's like, wow, everything I ever studied is manifesting, and since I know what the end goal is, it looks like that end goal has already diminished, decades in a very short time span, because even the wicked ones are like, wow, we didn't realize this plan would work so well, and we can control the masses this easily, this quickly. We can fulfill our goal at an even faster rate at this point. And I see it happening. And it's scary because I have a child. And for any and all of you who may have a child or children in your lives, I would say you need to really dig in within yourself and not just say, I'm afraid of this. People need to respect their fellow American or their neighbors or families and elderly, and wear a mask, damn it, or do this or that. And it's, analyze the tactics being used on a daily basis, and in question, has there ever been in history a point which the American government has lied? Question that, then do research on that. And when you see a deluge of information that proves that yes, they have done it, the next process should be, would they do that again? Is it possible what's going on right now could be that again? That's one. Then two, think of right now what's being pushed is pharmacology or pharmaceuticals / vaccines, inoculation on a national and international scale. And then think of, historically speaking, for the past, let's say 50 years, pharmaceuticals and the banking industry are the two monsters that engulf humanity with an iron rod control tactic. Now, we're forced into the socioeconomic system. I was not born into a system that I said I had any control over, that I had to adapt my entire life just like you did and everybody else born in America or under a so-called democracy. Now, with that being said, you start questioning, okay, so my entire life I had to adapt with the illusion of freedom. How much freedom do I really have if the moment I say something that is truly from an individual perspective, I'm not chastised and hated? Why are there immediate consequences to having an alternative thought process? Yet if I follow everyone else, then it's called freedom. So apparently there seems to be, you start having to question, what is freedom defined as from the American perspective, or the perspective of, geo-capitalism. Now, to move forward a bit, as I mentioned, pharmacology or the pharmaceutical industry, banking industry, and then government lying. Think of that. Then think of individuals. All these doctors that we see on TV, and I'm not even talking about Fauci. I would tell you his connection with actual bats and experimentation from 2016, 15 through 18 actually, in which he had very specific connections with the Wuhan laboratory in China, that he was really good in eradicating or erasing his name from connection to that, because strangely he was working on a coronavirus and how bats respond to a forced inoculation of a mutated version of the coronavirus. And, lo and behold, not so long later, there was the Event 201 instigated and implemented by Bill Gates back in October, I believe, September or October of 2019. And then just a few months later, boom, we have an exact scenario of that pandemic strategic scenario of Event 201. But anyway, these are all things for you to think about and do research on. I'm not going to, delve into every aspect. Now, going back to individual doctors, a lot of these doctors who speak up, and ER, and oh my God, well, the ICU is crammed. We're overbooked. If just common sense, I would hope all of you listening to me have sufficient common sense and logic that if you're watching my video, you're obviously more into alternative information than mainstream information. So wouldn't you question, if this virus is so terrible, that why isn't 99% of people die in hospitals? Why are not people dying in the middle of traffic? You know, in Walmart, you don't see bodies collapsing. You don't see, bodies in the parking lot of Target. It's so dangerous that apparently people only die in hospitals, and they die from these respirators, or being, forced, these tubes being forced down their throats. I, of course, being a conspiracy theorist, with the nasal swabs, I feel, how do you know they're not lacing the nasal swabs with the very virus? So then they can say, oh, this is positive. And it could be very random. Maybe some of the swabs are laced and others aren't. They could be prepackaged. So in front of you, they're opened and you're like, oh, this is clean. This is true sanitation. This is good. This is sanitized. Yet it could be laced. But nobody thinks like that, because nobody thinks that a professional would do something malevolent. Now, with that being said, I wanted to also then introduce the idea of there is such thing as corruption. We all know that. So what makes you think that a lot of these doctors who we hear in the mainstream are not being introduced to, let's say Dr. Fauci or Bill Gates? They speak to a lot of these head doctors, representatives of the top hospitals around the world, specifically in the US for the basis of this discussion. And they say, listen, we need you to agree to something. We need you to say that every death that occurs in the next 5 months has been from COVID. We have a plan, and you need to agree to it, or something will happen to your family. And we're going to give you $1 million, and all you have to do is just follow the script. There is such thing as corruption, and I wish the average person who were paying attention to what's going on can be like, you know what? There is a massive possibility, not just being plausible, a true possibility that a lot of these doctors are like, nah, I'm not going to lie. I went to school for this. I took the Hippocratic Oath, and I'm all for the people, and I'm going to dispense the facts. And those are the ones that are considered fake news, who dispense the facts throughout YouTube and all other forms of mediums and platforms. Those who are allowed airtime are the paid product of the people behind the scenes. Sort of like a puppeteer with his hand up the ass of the puppet. A lot of these doctors have their asses crammed by the puppeteer, making sure they speak the same narrative. Now, mind you, this is all some just conjecture. Not necessarily fact, but when you understand the history of the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, and the banking industries, and then you look at throughout history who has done what, why, and who truly benefited, then my conjectures become much more of a possibility and no longer just, oh, that's just a concoction of thoughts. No, there's a massive possibility. Do I have facts? Real tangible evidence? No, but I don't trust human nature, especially people with money who are easily in a position to bribe a lot of the top people in positions, such as we see throughout the media. Now, I'm not saying the wealthy are evil in general. Being wealthy doesn't make you evil. But it sure seems that when you're wealthy, you want more wealth. That wealth then gives you power, and the power then corrupts a lot of these individuals. There are people who are rich or wealthy who truly have good hearts and truly try to benefit society, individuals, their family, the communities, etc., etc. So just to get that out the way before I get bad-mouthed about that concept. Now, my point is, when you think of like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, these two supposed, politically charged individuals in the public have opposing concepts between AI, Neuralink, artificial intelligence being injected with the hydrogel, the vaccine. So of course there are people questioning, there are some people questioning the reality of what's going on and why, while the majority are truly afraid. And that fear is completely paralyzing their capacity to think rationally and, to take a step back and say, not all of this is making sense, and I want to know why. Who's benefiting from this, the full spectrum of information? Who wins? And what is the winning? Is it more power or more money, or is it both? So as of right now, just to jump back, as I was saying earlier, it seems to be an atrocity that I speak up like this, because, I'm doing my best to utilize the freedoms that I have and use a platform that is also controlled, and they may delete this video or my channel. But I still feel it's my responsibility to share what I know and what I perceive, what I discern, and at least offer you some seeds that you can say, well, I never thought of it that way. Let me do my research and see if they connect in a way that will give me a red flag. Now, that I truly believe is a true importance to being a critical thinker. Now, for all of you listening, watching, I simply just want you to think critically, not have a reactive personality. Don't look at my video or don't listen to others who think differently than you or speak differently than you and immediately say, oh, they're stupid, oh, they're dumb, oh, these anti-vaxxers, oh, these anti-maskers, they're idiots, oh, these Trump-tards, whatever, liberal, leftist, rightist. Everything is labels today, which has created so much, not only derisive language, but a lot of division. Now, there seems to be a lot of malignancy within society, which was, of course, planted in there through the mainstream media, propagating or insinuating a lot of the hatred and self-hatred of society in certain sections and caste, departments of society. Now, this entire reset should be obvious to even a person, and the everyday person should say, wow, they got a quick solution to the global problem. Wow, we're not going to have money, so wow, what a coincidence. We're afraid of cash, and look, lo and behold, their immediate solution is a global digital currency, singular digital currency, with the possibility of introducing a digital wallet, universal basic income that will appease or placate the people, but simultaneously the people not realizing that they're being put into a position of eternal subjugation, submission, and forced compliance. Now, when you think of everything that's going on in America with the initial closure, it literally nearly decimated let's say 80% of the economy. The dollar it's lost a dramatic amount of its value. There's already inflation, as you can see in prices for meat, for dairy, for eggs, cheese, things of that nature, as I mentioned, within the category of dairy. And if people would only comprehend and say, wow, look at this chain reaction, coincidentally all happening from a lockdown. Now, do you think the government doesn't have well-known strategists and economists and tacticians and, people who they sit with in a room, have an awesome meeting, and they say, listen, if you are going to have a shutdown, we need for you to recognize that this shutdown is going to cause a massive increase of unemployment, massive amount of loss of businesses that build this economy. So it's going to affect the economy. The unemployment numbers are going to skyrocket exponentially. And by doing that, the economy will worsen, because now less people employed means less consumption. Now, if I as an individual can come to that conclusion and see how easy it is to recognize that the economy can be destroyed the moment you shut it down, then the fact that they're talking about a possible second shutdown should be a red flag to the average person and say, well, did the first lockdown really work? Did it? There seems to be a massive spread. There's a second wave. They're already talking about a third wave. And unemployment has skyrocketed. The CBDC moratorium ends December 31st. Now, of course, I think all this is done by design. It's all an architectural blueprint by the elite, by the so-called secret societies that are not so secret when you do research. But yes, to the mainstream, the average eye, yes, this all seems to be an organic flow of things going on, unless you're a critical thinker that has the power of discernment. Now, you only get discernment by being a critical thinker. Your intuition, your gut should be saying something's not right. So going back to this great reset and the collapse, purposeful collapse, the purposefully engineered and implemented collapse between March and right now in December, what's today, the 10th or the 11th? It was by design, and by design, I truly mean by design. They want the majority to be impoverished and in a position of forced subjugation, submission, and in complete dependence on the very system that a few may have a disdain or share hatred for or toward. Now, the second lockdown is going to fully destroy the economy, which is when I can now prognosticate or mathematically calculate and predict through my language at the moment, in which once that collapse fully occurs, that's when the petrodollar, the fiat currency we currently have, will fully collapse, and the slow introduction and rollout of the digital currency, the digital wallet, will be all part of this universal basic income that may be implemented with the Biden administration. Now, Biden may not even last long, and Harris may end up taking over. That will be another discussion. And I mean that with his health, not in any physical danger from an external source or force. Anyhow, so the decimation of this economy will be finalized, I would say, maybe within the first quarter of 2021. With that being said, as vaccines continue to roll out and more people are dying from it, and there are a plethora of side effects that are now being shared by underground and mainstream media, there may be a pause on the inoculation, which will then only force another lockdown, because they're going to say, well, the vaccines are not working. We need to get back to the drawing board. We need to shut down again, continue to wear masks and social distance. But now we have a universal basic income. And with the universal basic income comes along stipulations. Those stipulations, there's a huge possibility, because if I was a control freak, I would say, I'm going to help you, but you got to do and say what I want you to do and say. So within the stipulation of a universal basic income, there's a huge possibility of a nice list of stipulations that you must follow and adhere to in order to get your monthly income to enjoy some form of peace during a lockdown and this, pandemic that is the most hideous, horrendous, dangerous, dramatically evil, malicious, malignant, and virulent, pathogen that's ever existed. Yet we don't actually see the results of such statement. Now, early on, you are going to see this great reset implemented, because the great reset represents technology. There is something called fintech, which is the financial technology, which will be all implemented, as I was saying, with Bitcoin, digital currency, which is all part of now the medical field, the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, or pharmacology. Everything will be linked on a digital level, whether it's through in a vaccination, inoculation, maybe an implanted microchip. Maybe it'll start off with a certain wristband or something to identify that you have the vaccination, and that wristband or whatever it is, some gadget. Maybe right now it'll be an app on your phone to start with. And the eventuality will be something internal, because Bill Gates and Elon Musk have already spoken about, smart grid, smart society, smart cities, that eventually all our technology will be within us, because the end goal is transhumanism. Now, to rewind and just go back, just think of, with the eventuality of this whole great reset, there's nothing we can do at this point. They've got so much momentum from decades and centuries of pushing this agenda, and most people have called it, just conspiracy, and all theories. Oh, these people are lunatics. Oh, they just want attention. Now it's manifesting, but it's manifesting at such a speed and rate, and the velocity of it, the trajectory of everyday events that's happening should be obvious where it's leading to. It's very dystopic. or dystopic, and the idea of a utopian society is dead. That's dead. It's dead because the people in power want a dystopian society that they can control. And in one of my other videos, I mentioned the Georgia Guidestones. They in essence, they want only 500 million people on the planet. 500 million compared to the current, 7.8 billion. That means their intention at some point, whether a slow process or quick, would be the manufactured murder of 90+% of the world's population. Squeamish, scary, gory, whatever it is, it's going to happen. Evil people don't care who they hurt. Most of them are narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic, and then they got the sycophantic who feel obligated to kiss ass and do whatever they want so they can keep their own job and their income. So it's interesting how I see everything going on, and this great reset is already rolling, and it's becoming more mainstream information. Before I continue, I think it's important that you look up fintech. There was a discussion about a week ago on YouTube and throughout the internet. It was a live, I wouldn't even say synopsis of their plan. I guess you say like a symposium. And it was about an hour and a half worth of this symposium, a presentation of the utilization of brand new emerging technology with finances, speaking of a new digital currency and how it will be implemented from nation to nation, the eventuality of a central government that controls it or is the governing force of the planet. And at the end of that presentation, the female presenter mentions, this is our idea of the new world order. It's not quite conspiracy anymore when it comes right out the mouth of these conglomerates. But it's only hearsay until you yourself do the research and you find it. So fintech, F-I-N, representing financial, then tech, T-E-C-H. You will see there is a symposium. It's about an hour and a half. You'll find it all over YouTube and even throughout the internet. Just watch the video. May seem boring with the numbers and charts and discussion of their trajectory per country for the GDP per country, but as you'll notice, and if you take a step back and try to analyze it from different angles, you'll realize that overall it's a discussion on control through the financial market, through the implementation of complete digital currency. Now, apart from that, I just, going back to the final piece so I can end this for anybody who's still watching, whoever's listening, I want you to just take note of what's going on. Inhale, meditate, think for yourself, try to think clearly and say, what's going on? What is really going on? Why so much fear mongering? All you hear is the virus, the virus, the virus. Not many know about the bombs being dropped from Israel and attacking Iran. Not much discussion on that because everybody's talking about this, this pathogen, of course, If you just take some time, take a step back and pay attention to more than just this virus, you'll start seeing that all of a sudden everything is starting to look like pieces. All puzzle pieces being beautifully put together to make an overall picture. And this picture is the New World Order. And it's being implemented. They got very few pieces left. Now, if anybody has ever heard or knows of something called Agenda 2030, or the Agenda 21 representing the 21st century, it is not a coincidence that we have a virus that's running rampant on a global scale in the year 2020. So they've given themselves a decade to create immense fear, to begin the manifestation of their desired outcome between 2020 and 2030. So by 2030, apparently, seems like the population is going to be dramatically dropped in whichever way it'll be. Maybe it'll be this pandemic. Maybe it'll be this pandemic, pandemic, as well as World War III. World War III may not necessarily just be, data thievery. It may be nuclear war or whatever new technology exists that, maybe they have special air guns that will, completely evaporate our flesh. You turn to nothing at the blow of this type of air gun. We don't know. They got microwaves, sonic weaponry. They can use anything at this point that, they can give the world a heart attack. They have weapons like that. We don't know if they have weapons like that on a massive scale that it can affect a huge group simultaneously, but they definitely have it for individuals. You can look that up too. A heart attack gun. So, just think about everything going on. And I don't want to seem like I'm just being overly verbose, because everything is connected. I'm not just speaking with this verbosity, with being empty words. I really want you to fully grasp the intensity behind my voice and the immensity of the problem that's being global, and recognize that there's more to it. Just do the research. Humble yourself and recognize what you hear on Fox News, CNN, InfoWars. Not all of that is all facts. Pieces, snippets, tidbits, but you need to truly, if you want to not only protect yourself, but the future of your children or child or your family, your bloodline, your adoptive kids, whomever. You do not want a future of children to grow up to be literal slaves to a society that was very predictable in its pattern of being erected. I see that now, and I'm willing to sacrifice my life. Whatever I need to sacrifice, I'm willing to do it, because I prefer to sacrifice my life doing something that is positive so I can die with purpose. And my daughter can grow up and say, my father tried to change the direction of the wickedness of the world, rather than she grows up, she's a slave, and she hates me for saying, you knew about this and you let it happen. You never spoke up. You didn't even try. I don't want that. I don't want to feel that. And I feel the regret of my future self. So I'm making sure I do not fulfill that possible timeline. So I speak up. I am very blunt, brazen maven. That's the logo. This is who I am. I have a handful of people that love me, and I have a handful of people that I love in return. I respect, honor all of you who watch this, who have taken time to listen, and I appreciate your time and your energy. Just know that this great reset is going to happen unless we all come together in solidarity with a like mind of eradicating the elite and creating a system that truly benefits everyone equally. Without that, it's over. I'll see you. Peace. hypnosisradio@gmail.com. Comment below. Hit thumbs up. Please subscribe. Share the videos. I appreciate it. Love you all. Peace.